There's a theme here, guys. I'm focusing on raising my elbows, not my hands. Hey guys, Mark McKillier with Live Anabolic, and today I put together a really cool video on basically how to build big shoulders at home. No gym equipment needed. All we're going to use today are some dumbbells and some really inexpensive resistance bands. And guys, shoulders are a muscle group that I think too many guys don't really think about. And I'm not really sure why that is, because shoulders are one of the muscle groups that make you look really wide. And remember, the wider you look, the smaller it makes your waist look. All right, so if you're carrying some extra fat around the old midsection, you need to clean up your diet and lose the body fat. But at the same time, if you can build a wide back and big, wide, muscular shoulders, it's gonna make your waist look so much smaller, even if you don't lose 1 pound of fat. All right, so shoulders are a problem for us older guys. So guys, your shoulder is the most mobile joint in your body. It can move in basically 360 degrees, which is really cool. You can do a lot of things, right? But that mobility means it's also the weakest joint in your entire body. And that's why so many of you guys watching right now have got shoulder problems. I'm lucky. I've avoided it somehow, okay? And so I could basically do all these movements without pain, but I know a lot of you guys have a hard time raising your hands above your head. So only one of the 5 exercises today is going to ask you to raise your hands above your head. And if that hurts, that's okay. You can skip it, because there's 4 other great exercises that you should be able to do, even if you have, kind of long-standing nagging shoulder issues. Now, before I get into these 5 exercises, guys, just want to explain that your shoulder is, we refer to them as your deltoids, or your delts for short, is really made up of 3 different muscle groups. So you got a muscle that comes across the front of your shoulder, okay? That's your anterior, okay? Then you have a lateral muscle that comes here. We just call it the laterals. And then there's a little muscle in the back here. It's really hard to see, and it's also hard to work. That's your posterior. So those 3 separate muscles create your shoulder cap, okay? And the one in the front here is typically the biggest, strongest muscle of the 3. And part of the reason is, anytime you're doing a chest press movement, okay, you're also activating that front delt muscle, okay? And so it gets used just naturally a lot more than the others. And then the rear is the smallest, and it gets used the least amount. And so I have 2 different exercises today that are going to focus just on the rear delt. And for you guys that are having kind of shoulder issues, might be, painful type stuff, I really want you to specifically concentrate on these movements that hit the rear of our delts. I think it'll feel good, all right? I don't think it'll hurt your shoulder very much. And then also, I think it will also add a lot of strength and stability to what is typically our weakest joint on our body. All right, so for the very first exercise today, I'm going to start off with hitting, my rear delts. And a great exercise is a face pull. Now, we're going to be using bands for this. If y'all happen to be doing this at the gym, this is a great exercise to do with the ropes on a cable machine. All right, very same movement. All right, except these bands cost $20, and that cable machine at the gym costs about $2,500. All right, so here we go. I need you to step back away from the anchor point. And I have the anchor way up at the top of the door. I really like the high anchor for this exercise. All right, so you need to preload the bands. You need some resistance in those bands, all right, at the very beginning of the movement. Hence, all right, I'm way away from the door, and I'm leaning back slightly, all right? And this is all I want you to do, guys. I want you to keep your elbows nice and high and pull the handles towards the top of your ears, all right? So elbows high, all right? Don't bring your elbows down here. I want the elbows as high as you can get them, and those handles should be up here towards your forehead. Now, please, guys, make sure that anchor is nice and sturdy in that door. this will really hurt if that anchor comes out, all right? It's gonna hit you right in the face. All right, so I'm leaning back a little bit, boom. And you really need to do this nice and slow, and I like to hold it for about a 1 or 2 count at the top of this movement. That way you can really feel those real rear delts contract. Give me at least 10 good reps of this. And notice kind of the speed and how I'm trying to control the handles as they're going backwards and forwards. All right, so not only are we getting this rear delt, but you're gonna get a lot of the muscles in your upper back, all right, because there's no way to isolate your rear delt from all the other upper back muscles, but that's great. Well, you'll feel basically an entire pump in all the muscles of your upper back and your rear part of your shoulders. All right, so I'm kind of going back and forth between bands and dumbbells. And I tend to like to do these in the order I'm showing you, because what I'm doing is I'm focusing on different parts of my shoulder, okay? So I don't want to focus on my lateral delt with 2 exercises in a row. I'll tend to hit the rear delt, let my laterals in the front part of my shoulder get a little rest, all right? And that's how I basically design all of my workouts. So the second exercise is going to focus on our lateral part of our shoulders. And this is my favorite exercise. And we just do these with dumbbells. And guys, you cannot do much weight, all right? Because form is so important when we're hitting our shoulders. You need to really feel that mind-muscle connection. And then also, remember, it's not a very strong joint, all right? So we can't do much weight. So don't feel embarrassed if you do this with 5 pounds, all right? So lateral raises, I just like to start with the dumbbells just kind of right in front of my thighs here. And I'm gonna bring them up to my side, basically like this. Now, one thing, guys, is look at the bend in my elbows. I'm not doing this straight arm. Don't do this, all right? You wanna have just a natural bend. And what I'm focusing on right now, guys, is not lifting the dumbbell. I'm focusing on lifting my elbows. So if I bring my elbows up, the dumbbells will just kind of come along for the ride. And so don't turn the dumbbells this way. Let me put these down because I can give you a better explanation. So when you bring the dumbbells up, I want your hands to be in this neutral position. Basically, if you let go of the dumbbells, your palms will be facing down. So you're gripping the dumbbells and you're keeping your hands in kind of a neutral position. That will really focus on the outside, the lateral of the 3 muscle heads, okay? Also, if when you bring the dumbbells up, you turn your hands like this so that your palms are facing forward instead of down, look what it does here. It rotates your shoulder joint. Then it starts to put more emphasis on this front delt, which we don't want. And also, I think it puts your shoulder in a little bit of a bind. You can actually experiment. You can use a real light weight, do it the correct way, like this, with your palms face down for 3 or 4 reps, and then do it the wrong way. Bring the weights up like this for 2 or 3 reps and feel the difference in your shoulder. That's a good way to basically verify that you're doing it correctly or incorrectly. So, guys, control the weight. I'm not swinging the weights up by jerking my upper body. I see guys do that all the time at the gym. They use way too much weight and they try to fling the weight up. Basically, I'm just lifting my elbows up and I'm controlling it down. I'm not letting it fall. So guys do this and then they'll drop it and then drop it, all right? So you wanna feel your shoulder muscles contracting both on the concentric part of the movement and also the eccentric. Concentric is when the muscles are contracting. Eccentric is when the muscles are relaxing and stretching and getting longer. All right, so the third exercise is gonna focus on our rear delt. See kind of what I'm doing here? We just hit our laterals. I'm gonna give our laterals a little rest. Now we're gonna focus on the rears again. This is a bent over dumbbell rear delt fly. That's a long name, right? So before I pick up the dumbbells and show you, I wanna demonstrate the form, all right, with nothing in my hand. So Basically, you can sit on a bench or a chair or a couch or whatever, and we're going to start in this position. I'm going to keep my head really just kind of staring between my feet here. And this is how I want your hands. This is the important thing, all right? I want your hands when you're gripping the dumbbells to be like this, all right? And you're just going to raise your elbows. Once again, we're going to focus on our elbows. And you don't bring them back. You bring them out to the side, maybe even slightly in front of you, in front of your shoulders, all right? So we're coming out and like this, all right? So my thumbs are going to be pointing down. Now, if you do it like this, if your palms are facing down and your thumbs are facing forward, look at the difference. When you're doing it this way, we're focusing on the rear part of your shoulder. If you rotate it and do it this way, we're getting too much of our lateral head. So that's the trick, guys. And it's very subtle. And once again, try doing it both ways, all right? And that way you can learn the difference in the feel, all right? So when I'm holding the dumbbells and I have them in this orientation, I can really feel the rear part of my shoulder, those anterior muscles, contracting, all right? Now, if I do it differently, if I bring the dumbbells up this way, I feel the outside or the lateral head of my delt, all right? And this is another exercise where you're not going to be able to do much weight, 5, maybe 10 pounds, because the form is really key. Because if you use too much weight on this exercise, you will just naturally start to swing, all right? People will do this. All right, so you got to try to keep your head really still and then control the weight up and then control it down. Don't just let it fall down. So 5 to 10 pounds on this exercise is plenty. Okay, so exercise number 4 is going to be focused really on our front part of our delt and a little bit on the lateral part. Now, for you guys with bad shoulders, you may have to skip this exercise. This is just a seated overhead dumbbell press, okay? And I get it if you can't get your hands up there because it's so common for so many men. But if you can do it, even with a really light weight, 5 pounds, so let's say, it's good to strengthen your shoulder with this movement as long as your body says you can do it. So listen to your body. All right, so here we go. I just get in the starting position right here, okay? And I pick a point on the wall right in front of me. I just kind of stare at it, and that helps with my balance. All right, I'm gonna put the dumbbells down real quick and show you something about the form. So in this case, it's gonna feel natural for your palms to be facing forward when you're gripping the dumbbells. So palms forward, I'm gripping the dumbbells, and I'm just going straight up and down. I'm not rotating my wrist or anything like that. As long as this really doesn't hurt your joint, it's a fantastic movement to strengthen the entire joint. All right, the 5th and final exercise today is using bands again, and these are just called upright rows. This is a good exercise for your lateral delts and also a little bit of your rear delts. And guys, we're just gonna be standing on the bands here. Now, instead of just standing like this, okay, let me show you an upright row. Just this, all right? I feel it a little better, okay, if I cross the handles. So I'm still standing on the bands, but when I row, when I bring them up, see how it's pulling the handle across to the other foot? I just feel like it puts better tension on my shoulders. I think it's a better overall exercise if you cross it. It's not a huge difference, but experiment and see which one you like better. All right, the other thing I like to do is keep a slight bend in my knees. All right, chest nice and straight out, actually kind of poked out. And I'm just gonna bring my elbows, all right, There's a theme here, guys. I'm focusing on raising my elbows, not my hands. Those hands are just going to kind of come along for the ride. And if it's too easy, of course, guys, just stop and add another band, all right? You're going to have to figure out what combination of colored bands are going to give you the right amount of resistance. And because it's hard for me to remember. Up white rose, I use these two colors, you know. You really need to write it down. Just keep a logbook, all right? And it will save you a bunch of time when you're doing band exercises. Otherwise, you're going to forget. You're going to do 2 or 3 reps. It's going to be way too easy or way too hard, and then you have to stop, and you're going to have to take some bands off or add some bands, and it just is. It's just kind of a big mess. All right. But if you write it down, it will save you a ton of time. You'll basically know exactly what combination of bands you need for every single exercise just by looking at your notes. And finally, guys, shoulders are such a great muscle group. They look fantastic. They look great when you're wearing a tank top, and they look really good and impressive when you're wearing a shirt because it makes you look wide. And like I said at the beginning of the video, that in turn makes your waist look smaller. Big, big trick, all right, for making you look in better shape than you really are. Spend a lot of time on your shoulders. I promise you won't regret it. And then finally, of course, guys, you got to stick with it and never give up on yourself.